So we'll be working on this adorable Corgi puppy today. And so whether you have your taken paint that you've purchased from Tamery.com or whether you're doing your own sketch of a Corgi or your own dog, we're going to learn today how to give this impressionistic look of fur and also make sure that we've got enough dimension in here so that our dog comes to life. Grab your taken paint or your sketch, your paints, and let's get started. Here we have the sketch. You might want to put a lot of little lines in here to kind of guide you as to where you've got your shadows, where the fur is kind of bending and wrinkling there. And that way you can kind of use that as a guide as you get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the easiest part first, which are in his ear. So I don't know if you've got your own sketch of your own pet, but usually puppies have this little, or doggies have this little kind of reddish tint in the inside of their ear. And you want to commemorate your puppy in watercolor, so you can maybe take a photo and put it onto paper and then trace it onto watercolor paper just using a window as kind of a light box, and you can get these fine lines. Just make sure that your picture is easy as far as the angle of your animal is kind of easy to paint. I found this Corgi online, a little photo of a puppy, and so I used that as a reference. I don't have one, but my son's friend has a Corgi, and he has such a cute name, and now I can't think of his Corgi, the Corgi. But anyway, they're so cute. I see a few of my neighbors have them, walking them in the neighborhood, and so I thought I'm going to create a take and paint for either dog lovers, or if you know someone who has a dog like this and you want to offer a gift, that will work too. And if you have your own type of dog, but you're just kind of following along with me here so that you can learn how to do that first. So you see I've kind of put in blocks of color in the background here. We're going to add some texture to it later. You can see I leave a little bit of the white of the paper in here. In this case, I did go up a little bit higher than I wanted to, and I can just kind of pull some of that paint away by adding a little water and stamping down a clean paper towel so that I get the white of the paper back. And my palette here is from the woodland set that I have and I sell online, or from your own set. Just kind of get a nice pink. If you've got a red, just water it down really good. And then I've got this kind of sandy color here and a couple of browns. I've added these two together. You'll see me continue to mix because I don't have enough probably to do the whole painting. And kind of a light gray. It's called shadow, so it's not quite a black, but it's a black gray. And then actually this one is a true gray. So I'm going to be using different tones of these within this painting here, and I'll use this as a reference and then continue to kind of test these as I go. So now I've got the ear in here, and I'm just kind of making sure I can keep the white of the paper where I originally, right here, I've got this white of the paper and along here. So I want to make sure that I keep all of that in mind as I'm going along. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the nose, and it's kind of impressionistic because I need to have some of the white of that paper showing as the wetness on a puppy's nose kind of glistens. That's why we'll keep it white there. And I'm kind of going with a little bit of that shadow, not too dark, depending on what you've got in your set underneath here. I'm going to go and tap in a few little these polka dots here. And then up here, I came in and kind of did something like this just to sort of give that impression as the nose is sort of turned and it's got a bit of a shadow there. And now I'll kind of come in here and follow this line just to make sure that I've got a little bit of depth and dimension. My puppy has his little head turned. So when I was a kid, I had a dog named Dusty. It was actually my parents' first child, and then I was the first child born. And so Dusty was actually their official first child. So she had a nice long life with us until I was about in fourth or fifth grade, and it was so sad to lose her. But boy, we have tons of videos and photos of the years with Dusty, and she was kind of a beagle mix, and I always love beagles. My favorite dog in all the planet is my next door neighbor's dog, and her name is Annie, and she's the best, and she's a yellow lab, and she's so sweet and so nice. So maybe my next take and paint will be a lab in honor of sweet Annie. And since dogs don't have a ton of different colors, it makes it easy for mixing in your palette. However, it doesn't have a ton of variety. So now I'm going to go in here. That my ears are kind of dry, and I'll just add, oh, that's a lot of paint. Just add a little more depth there. And that one is a little bit too pink, but it's kind of fun. Okay, now I'm going to take some of this sandy and brown color and kind of, when I'm dropping in these little, you can kind of see how I'm just sort of bending my brush and putting it in here. That's gonna dry just like that with the pigment around the edges. You can kind of see down here. It'll do that, and that way you'll start to get that texture that you're looking for in here. I'm gonna put a little gray into this area. And we're not really going for super realistic, like I was saying at the beginning, but impressionistic, and that way we can enjoy painting, we can tell what it is, and yet we aren't going to make ourselves crazy trying to make it look like a photograph. You want a photograph, as the Impressionists would tell you, then just take a photo. Okay. So this gives that authenticity that you have created this, and especially if you're giving it as a gift. So kind of see that we've blocked out a few. Whoop, I really went crazy over here. Got my microphone right in that area. It's hard to see around as I'm painting, so forgive me. Didn't even see I did that. Okay. And of course your puppy might have a little different color, so you want to mix up your own palette for that. Now I'm going to go and just tap in a couple of these little pink areas right near the toenails. And this little puppy looks like it's just been to the groomers. So you can see I'm really just adding paint to the lines that I drew in here, which makes it helpful. So if you're drawing ahead of time, remember that you cannot erase pencil lines. If you wanted to go back and get rid of them, be sure to use a kneaded eraser so that they're so light you can't see them. And also, if you use a micron pen like I have out here, then you can just paint right over it. I'm going to take a little bit of gray and kind of come in here and follow this for those shadows. Let that sort of dry a bit. And I'm going to go around this anyway, so it's fine if I leave that there. And now I'll get a little bit more of that shadow color. I recommend, if you're not buying the paints from me, that you get some bold, fun color paints and then also some neutrals like these. Makes it easier to mix up. If you have a large box, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating to find your palette. So I like these because they're made to go together. They work amazing together. And that way I can take them on the go and know that I can make 1,000 colors out of them, and whatever I paint them, they're going to look, whatever I paint is going to look good together. I want to leave that more white. And I've got some lines here forming, so I'm going to kind of get rid of some of those. Kind of blend those in a little with a clear brush. All right, so I'm going to get... not talking too much about the color that I'm using because you might be using your own. And now we've got to go in and do those eyes. And one thing that's important, I also have like a calico cat take and paint, is to just be sure you leave white in there. Just no matter what, you leave a little bit of white. If you paint the whole thing in, your dog will look like it doesn't have a soul, and they do. They're so sweet. Okay, so I'm going around lightly. I've left white of my paper in there, and I'm going to let that dry, and I'll add another layer. So you can see the nose is dried over here, and I'm going to add a little more second layer paint. I'm kind of dancing my brush around so that I don't have a lot of brush strokes in there. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to trace these whiskers in this kind of brown color. You want to get you want to do 90 degrees, very wisp of your brush. If you have a fat brush, do not do them. Just leave them as lines or test it out on your paper strip and make sure you can do really thin lines, or you'll not be happy with the results that you get. So now I'm going over with a second layer of this brown that I had in the photograph. Add a little bit of red color there, which makes the dog look maybe a little crazy, so that may not be what I want to go for. Okay, kind of winging it here. Should really look at my reference. Alright, now I'm going to put some kind of shadows in here by just using a little bit of gray and kind of go along some of these dotted lines, if you've got a lot of them, to kind of paint over them so they're not standing out quite as much as a pen or pencil line, and a little bit more of watercolor texture. So you see he's starting to get some dimension here, and we've got his little paws. So I think we'll just add a few more dapples, what I call it, of different color along here, and really made his feet just too gray. We'll see if we can get some of that off. Okay. All right, now I like how that's looking. I think I'm ready to do the background. So in mine, you can decide what your puppy's sitting on. Oh, it's awful dark. So what I'm going to do, since that's so dark, is I'm going to stamp that like so. Don't drag it away so that it doesn't do that like kind of smear. And now I'm going to kind of pull that away, and I'm going to do something similar. Why my brush is so wet under here. My goodness. A little shadow be slightly along here. Now, let that set up a bit and pull that away to kind of give that sort of fuzzy line look around where this puppy is sitting so good and obeying so well and certainly listening for what's going on. I mean, this puppy's so cute. Maybe I'll just have to get one. After raising 4 boys, I was just not really up for having like an animal. But you never know. If you have a Corgi at home, you should make a comment at the bottom of this video, and maybe even you can follow me on Instagram, show me the painting that you have, and if you want to share your puppy with its, or your doggy with its name, that'd be fun too. So you could finish like this, or you can go around the outside. So my original had a very watered down kind of gray. I'm squeezing more water here. If you've got your regular brush with your cup of water, you just want to put a little bit of thin layer of water there and tap some color into it. And of course you could make it sitting outside, so you could put a sky or leaves, flowers in the background. So that's totally artistic license, kind of going around those whiskers carefully. I just went over them, but you would probably want to go over them more carefully. And make sure to go right up to the line so you don't have too much of a white outline. And now you've got your precious little pup.